Lost Art with Andrew Cox, retired Master Gunnery Sergeant. thelostart.podbean.com. Get some merchandise and help support the podcast in getting our veteran voices out for all to hear. Now on all major podcast platforms. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Be a guest, tell your veteran story, discuss your veteran business or organization. Email The Lost Art with Andrew Cox at gmail.com. Andrew Cox, a Teal Valhalla Project Ambassador. See the project story at tealvalhallaproject.com. Thanks for tuning in. Please enjoy the podcast that's giving a voice to our veterans. The Lost Art with Andrew Cox.
Today's episode is brought to you by TrumpShirt.com. TrumpShirt.com is a veteran-owned business where 100% of the proceeds goes to disabled veterans and veteran organizations. Support your veterans by purchasing a shirt at TrumpShirt.com. Use the promo code TLA and get free shipping. That's TrumpShirt.com, promo code TLA.
Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Lost Art Podcast, that podcast giving a voice to our veterans. I'm your host, Andrew Cox, and today we'll be having a fireside chat with the crew. But before we get into that, I want to give a big shout out to the Teal Valhalla Project and all the incredible work that they're doing for honoring our fallen heroes. I'm honored to be a part of their team and represent them as a Teal Valhalla Project Ambassador. I encourage you to go to their website, check it out. That's tealvalhallaproject.com. Go in there, buy some gear, help support their cause. Also, don't forget to go to our website, thelostart.podbean.com. Go in there, check that out. We have a merchandise tab you can click on and get some merchandise as well to help support us and getting our veteran voices out for all to hear. To all the listeners, thanks out there for joining us. And hopefully you're enjoying the podcast as much as I'm enjoyed doing them. But here we are, yet again, another podcast with the crew. So we'll start out. We'll go round robin. We'll start with Aaron. Aaron, how you doing?
Good. As mentioned earlier, preparing for this storm that's coming into the Gulf. As we all know, these storms get into the Gulf, and you never know what's going to happen.
That is true.
Got my backyard mowed already. I won't have to worry about that during the storm.
Now, do you get a lot of flooding where you're at specifically?
Not really.
That's good.
Flood zone. That's for another story time, but lots of water here in Florida, lakes, ponds, streams, you name it.
Yeah.
Amazingly enough, it doesn't flood. I mean, I can watch the rain go down the road. So there's like a river on the road, but it drains pretty well.
Oh, very nice. Well, that's good to hear. Yeah. Always a positive in there, right? Absolutely. All right, Vic, how you doing?
Good. Just came back from a little 2-night vacation from Disney. Had a great time. Kids went off and did their thing. Wife and I spent most of the time day drinking, which was awesome. Let's see. Today's cigar is a Eroya Jama Strand. Another, I've never had one of these before. I've had an Eroya before, but not a Jama Strand. I'm probably saying that wrong. But this is a Nicaraguan cigar, and the website said it is full bodied, and that's it. That's all the website says. So I'll give you guys my best guess at the end.
I love it. The cigars is what's making it. Thank you. I appreciate it. Krista, how are you doing?
Doing well, having a great week. Monday, I mowed the grass and got ready for any potential thing that might come this way. Tuesday, I started ripping out the deck and realized I was using muscles I didn't have. But my Sawzall had a blade called the Axe, and that was cool. So I really enjoyed that. So I was really getting into my blades on my Sawzall. Wednesday, took some personal time and hung with Chesty Puller, one of my kitties. And then today was a really super private day. Drank a little whiskey all day. I've been day drinking all day and just chilling. And tonight I'm with you guys. So yeah, been a good week.
All right. That's good to hear. All right, let's go to Mike. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing good. It's been a good week so far. Kind of a slow work week, so I'm not complaining.
Slow work weeks is not a bad thing as long as you're still getting paid, right?
Well, I'm still getting paid, but unfortunately, I'm doing all the crap around the house that I need to get done that I got the list that I
Yeah.
hadn't been doing. And
Well, you may or may not be getting paid for that. So, it's a toss up.
what's Krista calling me a loser?
The list, the big list by the wife. Yeah.
Okay. I thought she was like loser. I'm like, okay.
I love it.
I won't. I won't pop the window. I won't. I won't. No, that's okay. Never mind. Krista said, Kelly. She said I can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, babe. Ain't happening. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm glad everybody's doing well. We're missing Mark right now. He may join us later. If not, then it'll be the 5 of us, and we're gonna have a brass quintet moment, and it'll be great. Just don't tell Mark that when he gets here. Tell him he's part of the brass quintet. He messed that up for his retirement, I think. Except he called him a quartet. Isn't that what he said?
Yes.
I think that's what he said. Yeah, quartet. Yeah. All right. Well, Mark's not here, so we're going to skip around a little bit. We're going to go ahead and go to military news with Vic.
Wow, I get to be first. Well, first off, one of the pillars in our community, in the Marine Corps community, was laid to rest. 29th Commandant General Alfred Gray was laid to rest on July 29th. Let's see, that was one of the big ones. He basically he's got a building named in his honor at Quantico that houses the research center for the Marine Corps University there, and a few other accomplishments. He was a Korean and Vietnam veteran, and well beloved by his troops. So rest in peace, Devil Dog, to Valhalla.
Real quick, that correct me if I'm wrong. He's the only one that had pictures in camis for the longest time. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's see.
A Marine's Marine.
Definitely. Next up is a little bit on. Let's see who did there was a study done and found out that artillery, infantry, and enlisted troops have the highest rate of suicide. That study was just released today. So big surprise, right? Higher rate of suicide than 21 other military occupational specialties, and across the entire military, not just in a specific branch.
So hold on, you said it was number 1 was what?
So artillery, infantry, and enlisted troops have the highest rate of suicide. Okay. So I mean that. I don't know that says much because 80% of the force is enlisted. So, but of the MOS, artillery and infantry have the highest rate of suicides. So, and then the last one that I was going to do talk about is Putin has said that the U.S. has said that they want to put short range or medium range missile capabilities in Germany by 2026. And Putin has said, if you're going to do that, I'm going to respond in kind. Which means, we're still
Cuba.
Yeah, well, we're ramping up. We're ramping up in the face of a weak posture from the U.S. right now. So this has been going on for months now. Well, a little over a month since it was discovered that Biden is incompetent and senile. And now everybody is starting its slow, steady climb. So.
Wow.
Yep. So we'll see. I mean, but this is by 2026, and he's only threatening. But the U.S. basically anything, whatever they put in Germany will be about a 10-minute flight into Russia.
Wow. Yeah, it's pretty close.
Yep. And then let's see. I think that's about it. There was investigations done. I don't know if you all remember the Osprey that went down in Japan. Killed everybody on board, right? I guess the whole investigation is done. and there was a cracked and faulty gear, and apparently the pilot knew about it and chose to fly anyways. So
really,
not sure what's going to happen about that. So
wow. Did it show in the records that the pilot said, "Yeah, I know it's there," and he's still going to fly? Is that what happened?
I didn't see any of that in what I read, but I don't know.
I mean, that's the only way they would know if everybody died in the aircraft, right?
Yeah, he had to have known it. Yeah. So, yep.
You know, we always talk about, you know, there are times when you have to make tough choices and you have to go with what you have, right?
Right.
But sometimes, and I know the air wing, and Vic, you were in the air wing for a long time. Those checks and balances and all the stuff that they do over there is no joke. I mean, they're crossing every T, dotting every I. If it isn't perfect, somebody's getting fired. And that's a normal occurrence in the air wing.
Yeah. I mean, there are whole divisions of Marines dedicated to maintenance. And I don't know about the other bases, but I'm sure. But right next to Miramar, there was an FAA office. There was a building right across the street for the FAA. So I know that those checks and balances are they're there, and they're there on purpose. And their Marines, the sole job it is to make sure that they're there. So I'd be interested to see if anything else comes about that. I don't know if Aaron's going to talk about the Defense Authorization Act as a current topic. Nope. But I guess the House sent it on. When it came from the DOD, it was one number, and I think the House added like 21 million in emergency funds and sent it on to the Senate. So I guess we'll see. It's suspected that we may have as much as a 4% increase.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
Depending on if it follows inflation like it has in the past. Last year we got a 5.2% increase. This year they're looking, it could be as much as 4%, which would mean 4 years or 3 years in a row that it was 4% or higher.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
well, that's good to know. I want to go back to the suicide thing because we talk about that every week or every podcast, really. We hone down on veteran suicide. And I did an interview with a gentleman. In fact, on this coming Monday, you'll see the podcast. But Army veteran, did 21 years, and he knew by the time he was like maybe 1 or 2 years after he retired, 16 individuals that he personally knew within the Army had committed suicide. The majority of those being because he was in special forces type of stuff. So he was always stationed with those guys. So that's a huge high number that one person knew. I couldn't even believe it when he told me that, like 16 individuals that he personally knew. That's pretty wild. That's something that we have to figure out and get ahead of somehow. And how do you do that? I don't have the answer other than talk about it. But one of the things we talked about in the podcast was the active duty component, and how sometimes it's incredibly difficult to get help if you're not asking for it. So sometimes that people aren't there to say, hey, here this is, and or there's not enough engaged leadership, right? That intrusive leadership, they call it intrusive leadership, where you want to know about everything that's going on with that individual and try to recognize those things. And when you see something, take them to get them the help. But there's always been that stigma. And how do you get rid of that stigma? I think it's gotten better, but I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah.
Do you guys agree with that? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. How do we combat that? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But
I don't think the stigma will ever be gone. I don't think it'll ever be. That's the unfortunate side of it.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, for most people and most of us, at least, well, I'm assuming when we all served, that was a death sentence to your career if you decided to stay in. If you said anything, but
yeah, that's very true.
But then I don't understand the logic on some of it. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, you're good. I was just going to say, I remember coming back from deployment, and I think I had one small little, hey, if you guys are struggling or whatever, the doc's over there or something like that, right? It wasn't important. It wasn't in the forefront of everybody's thinking at that point in time. But I think it's gotten better, like I said, over time, but I don't think we're anywhere near where we need to be. And we have to somehow get rid of that stigma within the military. And how? I don't know. I don't have that answer.
And someone very close to me that I love very, very much. Well, let's see. It's been a little bit longer now. Time goes very quickly. Was at Camp Lejeune and did something. And when the day he got out of ICU after being in ICU for a week, and the sergeant major took him back to his dorm and said, can't you just be fucking normal?
Hmm.
After he tried to take his life.
Wow.
That's what the sergeant major told him. So he's been in ICU for a week after trying to take his life and said, can't you just be fucking normal?
And I can, okay. So from a leadership standpoint, I will say it's difficult sometimes because you're having to deal with, especially first sergeant major, they're always dealing with the issues that are happening. Right. But that's the gig. I mean, that's what they're there to do. And for somebody that's, that is their responsibility, to say something like that is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I get that it's overwhelming at times and it's tough and it's difficult, because you're constantly having to deal with it and taking people to get help and different things like that. But my God, you gotta get over that. And it's not about you at that point in time, and we as Marines and anybody in the military, we're Marines 24/7. That's what we preach, which means you're on call, and my wife, God bless her, she understood that. And throughout my entire career, I was always getting phone calls at night, and I was always answering the phone, and I was always going to help somebody or whatever the case is. And she understood that. She may not have liked it all the time, but she understood it. And that's just part of the gig. And I think if you're in the military with people that close, you have to take care of them that way. It's like your brother or your sister for real. You have to, they're family. You got to take care of them. And sometimes we neglect that. And it goes too far sometimes. You look at flip coin, there's so many people that get out that are divorced and all that type of stuff. And why? Because they put so much into the military aspect and didn't take care of what was at home, which, okay, there's a fine balance, but man, it's a difficult thing to balance for sure.
I lean on the side of taking care of that service member prior to getting to that point. Mm-hmm. Something led up to that. Now, there's a time and place for everything. Obviously mature audience right here, but those that may be listening that haven't experienced some of the things we've experienced in the military, you have to, you've already said it once, but you have to recognize signs and symptoms. Now, if you're constantly beating your troops down, constantly beating them down, and they're not or they can't see any benefit from it, or you haven't kept your Marines or service members informed of what the benefits are of hard training, they're going to fold. I kind of, what Krista just mentioned with that sergeant major, can you just be effing normal? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Show me what normal is then, sergeant major.
Yeah.
But to that point is, again, there's a time and place for everything. There's a time and place for an ass chewing, right? I mean, we all know that. Some of us have made the mistake of doing it in the wrong places at the wrong time. But
many a time, yes.
Grab that person, not grab them like physically grab them, but grab them and take them to the office, set them down and say, hey man, what's going on? Share with you just one incident there at the schoolhouse, Andrew. You probably knew about it. Why? Because I felt that I handled it at my level. We had a kid through the class and we were talking about suicide prevention. And I could see, I was watching from the back of the class, this kid just wasn't acting normal, like responding to the information we were giving him. So I was like, hey, come here. Walked him out, took him to my office, set him down. I was like, hey, what's going on? The kid broke down and like told me a bunch. I said, check it out. In a different place now. We whatever you need. If you like, hey, I want to go talk to the chaplain. I want to go do this. I want to go do that. By all means, he goes, No, Master Sergeant, I think I'm good just by talking to you. It allowed me to get some of this off my chest. And it was trauma that he dealt with coming up as a kid. We
Yeah.
don't know kids came into the military with, that's a lot of it. I mean, let's be honest.
And Aaron, you bring up a good point. Is the trauma that happens before people come in is one of the biggest things that happen throughout somebody's career. And if we don't recognize that and know that things happen before people get here, I mean, you can think back, things happen to kids, like little kids, and if they don't get treatment or get the therapy or whatever it is that they need, it's going to come out at some point in time. And when is it going to come out? When they're stressed out, when they have a lot of stuff going on in the military, where you're expected to perform at a high level at all the time, right? That's where it's going to start rearing its ugly head.
Yeah. Not to extend this conversation, but just kind of mention it to the overall audience. I dealt with things throughout my career things that happened to me or failed to happen to me as a kid coming up in a fatherless home, or a stepdad that beat the crap out of his mother during my career. And it was absolutely when I was experiencing probably some of the most stress during my career. And it's because I didn't know how to react or prevent my reactions to some of the things that were being said. Some people
absolutely
were better for it. Some people, things happen to them as a kid coming up that if it happens again in the military, they just kind of start losing their mind, Be cognizant. I'm not saying we coddle everybody, because that's not what the military is about. We're about making us the best people we can, because when the time comes to it, you have to be able to trust that man or woman to the left and right of you.
And what I found, if as a leader, if you're honest with somebody, like somebody walks in your office or you notice something is off and you pull them in and you sit them down and you're just honest, like something's not right. I don't know what it is, but you either need to talk to me or you need to go talk to somebody else, right? But you have to take that step of pulling that person in, because we all know we get in that bubble of, I'm depressed or I'm upset or whatever it is. And we don't think anybody else has that. It's just us. And we have to, as a leader, you have to reach out and you have to say, hey, how are you doing? It's the same thing I say, just sending a happy birthday message to somebody, you never know where that's going to lead, and you got to capitalize on it when you see it. But, and the more you do it, the more you recognize those types of things. But that is something that leaders, I think it gets lost in the shuffle. We worry about some things that we probably shouldn't worry about. And there are things that are way more important, like life. Life is important. That doesn't mean the mission is going to fail, but by God, if you can send somebody to get help and they're gone for a couple of weeks and they come back and they're better for it, in the long run, the whole unit's going to be better for it.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Anybody got anything else on that? Vic, you got anything else?
I think it's a topic we could go on about all night long, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah,
that is true. Yeah.
I got nothing else. I yield my time.
Yeah.
But I mean, that
Very
even goes for even senior leadership. It's not even just junior Marines. I mean, that's, that was something I looked at, me personally was, the gunny, the master sergeant, the master gunny doesn't go and say he's got a problem or he's having problems or he's hurting or, that's the person that's supposed to be strong, steady, is always supposed to be there. It's, and that goes back to, you can't take care of anybody else unless you take care of yourself. It's, troop welfare includes you too. But that's the biggest thing that you have to understand, that, like you said, Andrew, the stigma, but, in a lot of units, and I'll say this for the band field in general, Aaron, you weren't in the band, but the band has such a stigma or a level of, we're above everybody else. We've got to be perfect 24 hours a day, and Aaron, you probably saw that, dealt with that in DC when you were up there. You know, it's like you can't have a bad day or a missed day, or and we, for the longest time in the band field, we had some garbage leadership. I'm not saying I was anything by any means, and I don't claim I was, but and I'm from what I'm hearing from you guys, a lot of that has been weeded out. I hope it has, but it was, if anybody made a mistake, or if anybody even made the inkling that they asked for help, there was an announcement made to the whole unit. You know what I mean? Am I wrong?
Very true. No, you are 100% right.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah,
at 8th and I, it was whenever I was there, so 99 to 03. You made a mistake. I mean, you stuck out like a sore thumb anyway. You knew you made it, but he's yelling at you from across the. Davis, I see you. Quit scratching your face.
Yeah, and it's true. I mean, that's par for the course for the Marine Corps, at least. I wasn't in the other services, so I don't really know. But for the Marine Corps, that's the game. That's what we've done since day one. If you do anything out of what everybody else is doing, you're wrong. Think back to boot camp. It was that way in boot camp, and it just carried on and carried on. But there has to be, at some point in time, intellect has to take over and say, hey, we have to do something different, and every generation is different. I think I figured out my generation for the most part, but every generation after me, it was way, way harder for me to figure out, because I couldn't figure, like, I was 25 years in, 24 years in at the time, but kids would come in my office and I'm like, I just don't get it. Like, this is
you
not,
can't relate.
me,
you can't relate to it. Yeah, that's the problem.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it makes it difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of simplifying the issue that Mike was bringing up. I understand what Mike's talking about with, if so-and-so goes out, gets drunk on the weekend, does something stupid, he's standing in formation, getting called out in formation, saying he's a freaking idiot and this and yes, I believe way better at that. Now, there's some things that deserve some kind of public humiliation. But I think in today's age, we need to be smarter about it. To Andrew's about not relating to some of these kids, well, think about it. Sure, some of us may have had Atari, Sega Genesis, or Nintendo, but these kids literally have anything in the world at their fingertips with their cell phones.
Yeah.
So most of them think they're smarter than you already. Or they think they can outwit you, but been allowed to get by with stuff, coming on and so forth, and they weren't kind of publicly humiliated or punished in the same way that we were punished. Part of it is on us. Like, I'll be honest with you, I may have whooped one of my kids, but I don't think I've ever really had to. To that point, some people say, "Oh, every child needs a whooping," and some people say, "If you ever spank your child, that's child abuse." And you know how it is. We are in a world that are at extremes, and I'll kind of get into that when we talk about current events.
Yeah.
We are living in a world where it's extremes. Whether it's I don't want to say left and right, but it's all over. It's 360-degree extremes.
Yeah, absolutely. And if there's one place that we should have that is not extreme, and for the most part, it's not, but one place, and that's the military. We don't have time to deal with that and to polarize the forces. Because the second you start doing that, they're going to start second guessing leaders. They're going to start second guessing judgment calls. And now they're not going to listen to you. Instant obedience and willingness to orders, right? That's what we were taught. You can't think about it. You just got to do it. And I think if we polarize things, it makes it that much more difficult. And I think that's one of the things I struggled with my last couple of years in the Marine Corps was some of that. It's because everything was so polarized. If I said one thing, then somebody else was pissed off, and yeah, it was just ridiculous. Just go do what I told you to do. I don't want to explain it to you. I just do it,
Yeah,
that's
just
how I
obey,
was.
right? Obey.
Yeah.
Isn't that what we were taught in boot camp? Just obey. Well, mostly, right?
No, instant obedience and willingness to orders. You don't question it. You just say aye, and you go charge and take the hill or whatever it is, and that's a hard thing to get across nowadays. That's not the mentality of, well, at least the American people. That's not how we do business.
You weren't telling us to kill
Wow.
somebody. I mean, just go clean the toilets. Just do this. Just get your horn and go to the rehearsal hall. Why? We went this morning. No, just get your horn and go to the rehearsal hall. Just do it. It's not hard.
Yeah.
Just do what you're told. Yeah.
Yeah, it can be something simple like that. Yeah, absolutely.
You
And
guys
that's where it
question the big
starts.
stuff. We just do what we're told. It's not hard. It's not
Mhm.
rocket science. Yeah.
Yeah. But all right. Well, anything else?
Vic's been super quiet. He's like, I ain't saying shit.
Huh.
Well, there's clearly people with more experience in it than me, so I might as well keep my mouth shut.
Whatever.
How the hell are any of us more experienced than you? Top.
That's what I'm saying.
Well.
Yeah.
I mean, Krista
I'm
maybe, but I mean, not us.
I'd mind her papers. Very
Surprised
nice.
I didn't get a drunk.
All right.
You're number one from Krista.
Hey, I know you'll get it later. Don't worry. Yeah. Oh, that was good. That was good. All right. Current events with Aaron.
All right. Probably a touchy subject, but we're going to talk about it anyway. Oh, by the way, that I just wanted to bring it up, but front page world news that Japan Osprey crash was right there. So but I did not choose to talk about that one. I wanted to talk about the Olympics and kind of the controversy around everything. Not really everything with the Olympics, because let's be honest, most of us probably are not really paying too much attention to it. But
Okay, I just want to say something real quick before you jump into it, because this is very important.
yeah,
How is it that the most wholesome thing in the Olympics, the most wholesome thing, is Snoop Dogg and Flavor Flav? How are they the most wholesome thing about the Olympics? You tell me that. I'm just saying.
Absolutely.
Well, I didn't do any research on that, but I did watch one episode of Kevin Hart, and I can't remember who else it was. Anyway,
It was Snoop Dogg.
these guys. But yeah, to your point, Snoop Dogg, I believe, is a very patriotic person, and he wants the USA to. So it's to me, I enjoy seeing shots, video clips, and pictures of him out there supporting our teams. I wish there was more celebrities doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead of speaking out against the American way of life. That being said, the one thing I was going to bring up is this women's boxing match where this woman that allegedly failed a gender test. I guess it was a hormonal test, basically tested. I've seen so many different things, so I'm going to make the assumption that in the world championships last year, they tested positive for testosterone, high levels of testosterone. So that being said, the Italian boxer Angela Carini tapped out after 46 seconds in the match. Now her statement, scroll over here, and she said, I felt a severe pain in my nose, and with the maturity of a boxer, I said enough because I didn't want to. I couldn't finish the match. Other boxers have questioned, okay, as boxers, we don't quit. We don't just step back and quit. There's got to be something to it in reason why. Of course, we're back to the extremes, right?
Mhm.
So the left says, "Oh, she's a woman. It's not been proven that let me get her name right here. Iman, I believe I'm pronouncing that right. Iman Khalif from Algeria.
Mhm.
They are saying that there's nothing proving that she doesn't claim to be a transgender. There's nothing proving that she was a male prior to, so on and so forth. That aside, my personal opinion is if you tested positive for high levels of testosterone in the world championships the year prior, why are you competing in the Olympics the following year? Like, shouldn't there be
That's a
some
good
type?
question.
So after I looked into it and looked at numerous additional articles on it, the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, states we go off of their passport, male or female on their passport, and they basically ignored the ban from I guess it was the IBA, which has been banned from IBA has been banned from Olympics 16 after years of disputes. So the IBA and the IOC don't agree with how they're doing these tests, and basically saying they're disqualified. So the IOC accepted her, even though she was banned by the IBA the year prior for the World Championships. So basically, they ignore. Okay, she's banned here. You're a female. Go ahead and you're welcome to box in the Olympics. What I seen in the match, I don't know if y'all seen it. Better.
It was pretty brutal.
It looked like she was very well overpowering. She towered over her a little bit. I would say probably Carini came up to
4
her.
or 5 inches.
So she was taller than her, but like some of the shots, it's like they were like, man. And
exactly.
I don't see Italy putting up somebody in the Olympics that can't fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just a lot of questions, a lot of controversy. To that point, let me find this other one. I know I'm in a lot. That's for Chris.
It's okay.
He likes to too.
Chris is like, oh, is that right? Noted.
I'm on mute.
All right. So where's that? I guess Biden signed the revised Title IX rules recently as well. So that being said, I'm kind of opening it up for discussion now. With the Olympics allowing folks with, I guess, male testing positive for male genetical criteria, we'll just call it high testosterone levels for right now, until I guess an investigation is done. And these amendments to Title IX rules. Me as the father of girls, here's my personal thought. If I'm watching my child compete in an event and a biological male, or we'll even say a female with high levels of testosterone, potentially take out or end my daughter's career, I'm probably coming unglued on quite a few people. And I think that's what they're opening up to in the world today, is that they're basically asking for retaliation. And I'm not saying, hey, that's what we should do. I'm just saying that's what a lot of warm-blooded people will do.
It's true.
You catch what?
What's the difference? What's the difference at that point? I mean, I was talking to a coworker today about that. He said, okay, well, if that's allowed, he said, so why don't we allow steroids? Let's go ahead and do that.
Good point.
I mean, that's what it comes down to. He said, if she or it or whatever it identifies as they, and that's how it was reported when I saw it on TV. It was last night or whatever. They said a transgender male or whatever, however they reported it. But but like he said, okay, well, they allow that. He said, well, why are they've got to be taking the testosterone, or either way. He said, so what's the difference? Why don't they allow steroids in? He said, why not at that point?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But as you're talking all about this, I just got an update on my Yahoo Sports app.
Yeah.
It says IOC defends decision on 2 boxers. International Olympic Committee doubles down on its ruling to permit Amon Khalif and Ling Yu Ting. I know I'm saying it wrong. To compete in Paris amid gender controversy.
Yep.
So there's 2 that are competing.
Taiwanese boxer as well.
Yeah.
Ah.
But what sucks about that sucks about all of that is, that girl, she basically gave all that up. That girl, I don't know how old she is. I mean, she's probably maybe in her mid-20s, if that. But that girl has spent her entire life to get to that point.
Yeah.
Just to have that, to finally say, yep, I'm done. I can't.
I would say at a minimum, okay, let's say they're both biologically female. At a minimum, they've allowed people to basically break the rules, compete in Olympics. Again, the worlds are separate in a different committee, and they said, no, you're absolutely banned. As a matter of fact, the Taiwanese boxer had won bronze, and they actually took that bronze from her, stripped her of her medal because of testing positive. Now,
right.
To y'all's point, again, if you're going to allow 2 people to do it, you might as well allow them all to do it.
Yeah.
And just let them all, take testosterone and duke it out. But I would just say that to me, there's a strength and there's definitely a strength difference there. And I don't see, I could be wrong, not a professional in this, but I could be wrong. I just don't see a female that's taking testosterone fighting in the same weight class being that much more powerful, meaning that because one is on testosterone, the other one is not, that the one on testosterone, when she hits another female, it's going to be just as powerful as a male. I mean, I don't know. These are professionals, man. It's like she got hit in the nose, and she knew at that moment she will not last with this friggin' other boxer. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So she said it was the hardest she'd ever been hit.
Yeah. That is hard as she ever been hit.
Didn't the U.S. took this was college, if I'm not mistaken, but do you remember the swimmer that was competing and won the race or whatever, got the gold medal, and they took that gold medal and gave it to the next runner up or whatever. And so America in the United States, they said, we're not doing that, right, for the Olympics.
Yeah,
that was something that the United States said, we're not going to do that. Correct?
Are you talking about
No, we don't know.
Who, Leah Thomas, to go?
Correct. Yeah.
To compete in the Olympics. Yeah. But I think, I guess all this to be said, it's proving that kind of the world, the decision makers in the world. I mean, this is the IOC, right? International Olympic Committee. But the decision makers in the world are the ones calling the shots instead of everybody coming together as a single body. It's like, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that I think there's a larger agenda here, and it has to do with world order.
Like a new one?
Yeah.
Not trying to be a conspiracy theorist, but at the same time, it's like you see stuff like this happening, and it starts making you think.
You're right. You're right. It does. I 100% agree. And it's kind of like one of those conspiracy theory things, because I get to see that on the face pages and stuff, which is kind of fun. But one of them was the health they were talking about, why do we take health decisions from our health leaders, right? And then it showed like all the top health individuals for America, Canada, Germany. I can't remember what the other places were, but there's like 4 or 5 of them, right? And they're huge obese. And these are the people that are making the health rules for our nation.
Yeah.
Why are we accepting that is the norm, right?
It is
somebody's
the
going to
glaring,
be
it's glaring hypocrisy of DEI.
There you go.
I mean, it's so glaringly hypocritical, because these are the people that are saying, okay, this is what the health agenda is supposed to look like. And you're right. It's obese people. It's men trying to be women, in the US's case. But what just stands out above all else to me is diversity, equity, inclusion. Equity is mean we all have an equal outcome. How can you say that you're a proponent of DEI when you allow biological males to compete against females? Because that is not equal outcome. You are actually arguing against your own policy.
Yep.
You're acting against your own policy. That's not equal outcome. It's not.
No, I'll just say this. I have somebody in my family, trans. Look, I don't care. Your life, you want to do what you want to do. But when it comes to we're going to compete and do things within a national or world stage, and we're going to compete, that competition needs to be amongst the correct genders, in my opinion. Now, I'm not saying that you can do whatever you want to do. It's not on me. It's not for me to say. I don't care. But when it comes to sports, when it comes to things where they say this is male sports, this is female sports, because that's where we're at. Now, don't get me wrong. They do have sports, a couple of the races, if I'm not mistaken, they have male and female athletes racing together, which is fine. I'm all about it. Go for it. Go do your thing. But if they're separating them male, female, then that's what it is, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's even bigger than sports. It's
bathrooms. Yeah, you're right.
It's just ridiculous. Maybe that's our closed-minded perception of all of it. But
I will say that in America, when it comes to bathrooms, we are very specific with male and female bathrooms. And sometimes you go overseas to other areas, they're not exactly like that. It's just a bathroom. But usually, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, like usually though, it's a single stall bathroom, right? It's not a multiple type of thing. No, I could be wrong. I don't know. But the places I've been to has been like that.
Except for Target.
Right. Okay. I'll agree with you, but I don't go to Target, so I don't know.
I just, again, you Vic said it's the hypocrisy is what it is. It is so much the hypocrisy. Like you come up with rules and regulations that you're actually against, but you think it benefits you. It's crazy.
I'm sorry.
It wasn't you, Aaron. You got to look at your phone.
Yeah, Aaron, read your messages, man.
But even then,
I apologize.
I don't mean to cut you off, Andrew, but even then,
go ahead.
Like you're talking to IOC. I mean, did you see the stipulations that, they said the Winter Olympics, whenever we're going to be in Salt Lake City again? But did you see where
the stipulations? No.
Yeah, that because the United States is wanting to, the whole doping thing.
Right.
that the way I understand it, and I may be completely wrong on it, but if they test positive in the United States, the Department of Justice can prosecute them in the United States, just like Russia did with what's her name, even though she was a backstabber, the basketball player, for marijuana and having a vape
Yeah.
pen or something like that. And
Just-
the
Wow.
IOC basically put out stipulations. Yeah, it's going to be there in 20 whatever. I think it was like 2036 or something. But but if this takes place, then we reserve the right to pull it. We can do whatever we want.
Wow. Interesting.
Krista, quit. Why are your eyes crossed?
I'm back. There's a couple things with the gender issue. I know that there are a few people in the world who are born with both genitalia. And I think that was a couple issues with this lady from Algeria. And I'm not saying it's her fault, but that could be an issue. But I think that there are people who are born with both the genitalia, and they need to either pick which gender they want to be. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
That's a good point. Yeah, you're right. And
those are unique circumstances, and they just need to choose.
I'm not a doctor. I'm not a doctor. I'm not getting
right,
in there.
And I'm not going to go into that long diatribe of discussion on which they need to choose that. And there are several people in Jamaica and Africa who have faced that persecution throughout their Olympic careers, and it's not fair to them. If they had higher testosterone levels, you have to meet a certain, it's called nanos, or I think that's the correct term. There's a certain nanos that you have to meet in order to qualify for the Olympic trials. You have to certain nanos of testosterone. And Ron and I were looking at it last year sometime. So you have to choose, which gender you want to be, or now if you're a female and you're just born with female genitalia and you have high testosterone levels and you cannot control your testosterone levels and you're a female and that's just how you're born, you can't change that. And should you have to take testosterone suppressing medication, and you weren't born with male genitalia, that you can't control. But now I do not want to speak out of turn on the person from Algeria if they were born with both male and female genitalia, and they can choose which gender they want, and then have surgery and have that removed or stay. So there's some discussion, and I don't want to speak to any facts that I don't know or haven't researched. And do they want to undergo inspection? Do they want to undergo privacy inspection and say, hey, show me, improve to the IOC and things like that? That gets really intrusive. But if you're going to engage in sports and engage in the Olympic trials and engage in Olympic things like that, it gets really. But you decide what you want to do with your life. If you want to follow your dreams and go to the Olympics and engage in these things, what are you going to do with it? So, yeah, it gets really touchy. When you're a unique person and that's how God made you, then you can choose, what you want to do with your life and how you proceed from there. So, yeah.
I don't think it's touchy at all. I don't think it's touchy at all. Every organization has rules and standards. You have to meet a minimum requirement to be a Marine. And if you don't meet that requirement, then you're not a Marine. You have to, if there's requirements to be an Olympic athlete, you have to meet those requirements. And if you don't meet those requirements, then you can't be an Olympic athlete. It's just that the leadership has chosen to be ambiguous about what those standards are. And now all these people are falling through the cracks or making their way onto the stage. And they pass these ambiguous requirements, have failed in other international organizations, but for the IOC, oh yeah, sure, whatever, And now we have women that are literally like 46 seconds in saying, I can't do this. It's the hardest I've ever been hit. This isn't fair. This is unjust. And she's absolutely right. It was unjust.
But think about this. That's how policies change.
Right.
We are swinging to that side. And in order to start the policy, there has to be that ambiguity. I can't speak. I'm from Oklahoma, and it's okay. I go to meetings for that. But anyways, you're speaking about that, right? And there are steps that have to be taken in order to get there. Eventually, okay, well, that's a step. Okay, everybody gets used to that. What's going to happen? They're going to move the bar again. What's going to happen? They're going to move the bar again, and it's going to continue to happen
Why do we
until
keep moving the
all of a
bar?
sudden we change back. It's life. It changes all the time.
But why
Look
do
at the
we
Marine
keep
Corps. The
moving
Marine
the
Corps
bar?
changes. The Marine Corps changes it.
Well, it's kind of like
Look at our fitness tests. Look at all the different things. We're changing for the better. I don't know, but we are changing.
kind of go to they could have put a little more thought process into the Olympics. You see what I'm saying? We're not talking about amateur midget wrestling. You know what I mean? We're talking about the Olympics, the world's athletic competitions.
Yeah,
And
that's very true. Very true.
saying a boxer, all right, let's gender aside. If you're saying a boxer that tests positive for high levels of testosterone, whatever the case may be, a year prior in world championships,
and the world disqualified that person. So why can't the Olympics make a decision and man up?
But the next year,
I don't want my daughter to get hit.
Yeah, the next year the committee's saying, well, we're going to ignore the fact that these two boxers were disqualified from worlds. We're going to allow them to come to the Olympics and showcase because we don't want to discriminate against high tech.
Yeah, it's all about the funding. It's all about the stage. That's what it comes down to.
Yep.
I mean, you don't realize
where was the Worlds? Where was the Worlds this last time?
I think we need another Summer Olympics in the U.S. The Paris has had it 3 times now. They don't need it no more.
Well, if there's one thing I can say about the Olympics this year, it's definitely made it interesting. That is for sure. Yeah,
absolutely.
Like I said before, Snoop Dogg and Flavor Flav, those are the two most normal people in the entire Olympics. Is what's going on. Flavor Flav and Snoop Dogg.
I'd be curious to see what the ratings are and kind of, who's tuning in to watch. But I've seen more people this year saying I'm not watching the Olympics. That was based off the opening ceremony. But I have seen more people say I'm not watching the Olympics this year than anything. So there's been a lot of controversial things and incidences that have happened that has gained them more publicity. So I guess it's about the money, right?
Well, yeah, it's all those sponsors. Companies are, started saying, hey, guess what? You don't represent who I am or what my company is. So guess what? My dollars are coming back. You're not getting any of this. I mean, when that starts happening, that's when things like that will change, or there will be stuff investigated and rules put into place. Okay, if this, then that, then that, then this. But there's, at this point, it seems there's no defined rule other than, okay, well, this is what we want. Yeah, and that's what it comes down to. But you talk about the Olympics and the opening ceremony and that. The Olympics are supposed to be something. Supposed to be a family oriented thing where a family can sit down and say, hey, this is the greatest of the greatest. But we literally, they're depicting 2 men and a woman having a threesome.
Yeah,
I mean that was literally sitting there watching that, and then of course the commentators are talking. Oh, and then they finally slammed the door in your face. It's like, okay, now the 3 of them are going to go get it on. It's like, oh, I guess we're not invited. It's like, are you kidding me? Seriously? Am I overly offended? No, because I was like, this is garbage. But I was kind of laughing at it while I was watching. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is art. This is what you think. But, you sit there with, your kids or young kids or anything and sit there and explain that. Dad, Mom, I don't understand what's going on. Well, those 2 dudes were into each other, and that chick was into that dude. So they're all 3 going to get into each other. That's what was basically what they were showing right there. So
It's perversion on world display. So
oh yeah, but
they will
But
face
you
the
can look at that in Hollywood and what rated R was when we were growing up versus what is rated R now, right? It's huge. PG-13. PG-13 nowadays was easily rated R, if not more, back then. And
yeah.
and I got two young girls. I can't explain that stuff to them. I got nothing. My backwoods education is like, yep, sorry, yeah, that's something different. Yeah, it is. It's different.
I
It's
know I
tough.
watched Planet of the Apes movie on the cruise last week, and the girl on the movie actually murdered someone in the movie, like an outright, like she chokeholded him with her legs, like and it was actually an outright murder. And it was PG-13. And I was I'm okay with it. I'm an adult, but I was like, that's an outright murder. And then she murdered another guy in the movie too, another person, or maybe an ape in the movie. And it was
Mhm.
outright murder, like complete murder. But this was PG-13. I was like, oh, this is a Disney movie on the Disney ship. And I was like, is this okay? And I was just like, these are outright murders. There were three murders that took place in the movie, and I was concerned, not concerned, but I just noticed.
I don't know. There's a book that was written, the same guy that wrote On Killing and On Combat. I don't know if you guys read that, but it was like something about Hollywood, and I wish I could remember the title, but I cannot remember it. But he talked about up until a certain time. It was in the late 70s, early 80s, if I'm not mistaken. When did Clint Eastwood and what was the big one back then that was big when he was in it? Oh, man, help me think.
Dirty Harry.
Charles Bronson.
Dirty Harry. When Dirty Harry started coming out, that is the time. So before Dirty Harry, there was a unwritten rule in Hollywood that said we're not going to show like blood and guts and all that type of stuff in when somebody gets killed, right? Think back to the John Wayne movies. They said bang, a guy falls over, but that was it. There wasn't like tons of blood and all the other gore that you see, right? And then over time, right, as that has developed, you got into Dirty Harry, which went into other things, and then it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. Whereas today, think about the movie Kill Bill, right? Kill Bill is, my God, there's blood everywhere in that movie. And those are things that kids are watching. Should they be watching that? No, absolutely not. Do they? Yeah, they do. Why? Because parents don't pay attention to what their kids are watching. And maybe I'm guilty of that too, but I'm telling you, man, that book is incredible. I'll have to try and find it real quick, but it's insane.
And it's right there at their fingertips.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, when I was talking to my son last night, he said they went and saw the new Deadpool movie, Deadpool and Wolverine, and he was like, "That was definitely a rated R movie." I was like, I said, "Well, what gave it a rated R?" And he was like, "Nah." He said, "You've got to watch this. It's a Disney movie." He said,
"Is it a Disney movie?"
Yeah, people getting decapitated, arms cut off, and they're showing it, just flat out. To me, that doesn't necessarily bother me because if you actually follow comics, even Batman, Batman was not a bright, shiny hero. He was the Dark Knight,
True.
Even Deadpool and comic books and stuff like that. But, that's how we've portrayed everything because that's what we want audiences to see. But the way they talk with that one, they were given basically free license to do whatever they wanted to do. And he said, "Yeah, they pushed the envelope on that one, Dad."
I would say that any movie nowadays pushes that envelope. There are times that I'm sitting and it's just a regular show that you watch on TV, not a big deal, right? Or what you used to be able to watch on TV. And there's like, oh no, I can't watch that in front of my kids. Are you kidding me? It's ridiculous some of the stuff that's on there. I mean, I could go on and on and on about this, but I'm gonna find the book. I'm gonna let you guys know what it is. It's something Hollywood versus America or something like that. I can't remember the exact name, but we're going to move on to the next topic. So we're going to go to good news because we haven't done good news, and we've talked a lot about all negative so far. Well, some of it negative, not all of it. But we're going to go to good news stories with Mike. And now Mike disappeared. He's like, I ain't got no good news. Are you kidding me? He's like, I gotta go fill my bourbon glass. Hold on. We'll wait for him. It's all good. What do you guys did he actually leave, or is he gonna come back? Do we know? Oh, there he is.
There? No, everything
news
just froze up.
Good news stories with Mike.
I could hear you talking, but I was like, I'm here.
The world doesn't want us to have good stories, Mike.
Yeah. I'm just, the epitome of good stories.
Don't worry, Mike. I'll bring the negativity for you.
Yeah, you brought it this time, and normally I'm negative Nancy, according to my wife. All righty. Well, I was reading this article. It was a couple nights ago, and I had actually heard something about it, and I looked the article up. It was on this podcast I was talking about, this other podcast, and they brought it up. But no. Mark just said he missed drunk Krista.
Krista, you doing okay over there? She's That's okay. You're doing good in my book.
She's got jazz fingers going on. She's good.
Yeah.
Jazz fingers. Krista's got the I can't see shit fingers right now. She's like, that's it.
How many am I
Anyways.
How many am I holding up?
But I'll do my best on a feel-good story. So the Texas Heart Institute actually successfully implanted a titanium heart in a patient.
A titanium heart?
Yes.
Okay.
It looks like a French horn rotor.
What?
Yes.
Wow.
So it's the world's first successful implant of an artificial heart that uses the same technology as bullet trains use to function and move to pump blood mechanically throughout the body.
Wow.
So basically it uses magnetic, it's magnetic, but it's a magnetically levitated rotor that spins, and it's able to replace both ventricles in the heart. But because of it, it doesn't have the friction, and there's nothing is the way the tolerances are in it. There's no friction in it, so it doesn't wear out. What they're saying is it's not necessarily at this point a replacement for a human heart, but it's a replacement for those that are on heart transplant donor list. But they said that
same thing as bullet train.
Yeah, it's using a magnetic technology, like reverse magnets almost, basically.
Yeah.
But it says it's a titanium constructed bioventricle rotary blood pump with a single moving part that utilizes a magnetically levitated rotor that pumps blood and replaces both ventricles of the failing heart. Said that at its max, it has the ability to pump the rate of 12 liters of blood per minute, which in the average adult male would allow that person to engage in vigorous exercise. But this all happened in Texas, the Texas Heart Institute, Texas Medical Center, and it was at they did it at Baylor St. Luke's Medical Center.
I'm looking at this thing. My question, I see kind of where the tubes come out.
Yeah.
I mean, oh man, I'm just
Well,
curious.
it's amazing when you look at it how the hell it works.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't, it's something beyond me. But like the article says, the global epidemic of heart disease affects 26 million people worldwide. 6.2 million adults in the United States alone are diagnosed annually with heart disease.
Wow.
Said heart transplants are only reserved for those with severe heart failure and limited to fewer than 6,000 procedures annually globally.
That's the number one killer of women, not breast cancer,
Yes.
heart disease.
And that's actually what it's saying in this article right now. It's saying that its primary patient would be women.
Wow.
But it said, consequently, the United States National Institute of Health has estimated that right now, with current heart donor lists in the United States alone, 100,000 patients could immediately benefit from this mechanical heart in the United States alone.
Does it say how many they can produce?
No, it doesn't say any of that. No. But to me, it's pretty amazing when you think about it. But when you look at it, and I'll text you guys a picture of it. But it literally fits, and I'm assuming that's a woman's hand holding it. It's large, but I guess the human heart is that big too. At that point, so. But it literally looks like a French horn rotor.
For those non-musicians out there,
yes,
a French horn is the musical instrument that is all like, it's got 8,000 feet of tube that's all coiled up. I don't know. I can't explain it all that well. But anyway, the rotor on it is a part that where the fingers, you push the buttons, right? That's what you're talking about in the rotor inside of that. So if I just look up French horn rotor, and it will show. Actually, it really does look like a French horn rotor. You're 100% correct. That is funny. It just popped up.
It kind of looks like a turbocharger.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
For all you mechanics, it's a turbocharger heart. You musicians, French horn rotor.
Yeah. If I ever get one of those, I want to be nicknamed Turbo.
I can call you that now.
Hopefully it doesn't come with the pretentiousness of a French horn player.
Yeah, that's a good point. If that's the case,
I don't know. I don't know if it's like Iron Man, Tony Stark. Once they put it in, they have to I'm not trying to be funny, but I don't know what causes it to continuously. Do they have to give it a spin real quick and then close it up? I mean, to get it started, or is it automatically just start pumping?
You take a magnet and you go like this across your chest, and
it may be. I don't know.
I'm having a heart attack, and then you just run the magnet, and it whoop, 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 starts right back up.
It's actually it's really interesting that.
I'm sure it's controlled with an app.
Yeah, it's got a chip in it. And
I just went to the Bivacor website, and they say capable of providing high flows over 12 liters per minute, enough cardiac output for an adult male undergoing exercise. It's driven by a smart controller. To your point, Vic.
Smart what?
Smart controller that adapts to changes in patient activity and cardiac output demand.
Wow. It is amazing how far medical technology has come.
Yeah. But the article I have here is talking about, said that they had designed it and it was set up for trial, but they couldn't get anybody that was willing to do it.
Well, I mean,
and obviously,
you're taking your heart out,
Yes.
right? You're taking the heart out and replacing it with this mechanical tool. I can understand somebody's what is the word I'm looking for? Hesitation.
Skepticism. Yeah.
Yeah, skepticism. Yeah, I mean, you're literally saying, "Hey, we're going to make you into Tony Stark." Are you okay with that?
I'll be good.
So I'm gonna die, but if we do this, I'm probably dead. You know, it's
I'm gonna die earlier.
But at the end of the article, it says this achievement would not have been possible without the courage of our very first patient and the courage of their family and the dedication of our team and expert collaborators at the Texas Heart Institute.
Holy cow. That guy should be receiving the presidential medal.
Yeah.
Whoever that patient was.
Man, woman, whoever, you know, it's,
Yeah.
It's amazing that, but hey, you're right, Aaron. Now that you say it, I didn't even think about that. I just went to the band geek side of it, the fucking band, as we could say, TFB, that side of it is something that I look new but yeah, you're right. It does look like a turbocharger.
Hey, if you don't have TFB tattooed on your body, you're wrong.
Krista probably doesn't even know that story, does she?
Really? Wow. We'll have to have a conversation at some point about TFB.
So I wonder what the cost of it is right now, because is in the articles you guys are looking at and have a cost associated?
Mm-hmm. No, not on the
You have to
article
give up all of your limbs. That's part of the all of your limbs, everything. Yeah, it's pretty amazing though. That is good news.
Yeah.
We're gonna be the robots soon enough. I watched a movie just the other day about robots who took over, and then all of a sudden the robots were able to have babies and continue on their robot selves down the road. I don't know. It was some sci-fi thing. I was half asleep when I watched it. It was like 2:00 in the morning. I don't know.
Matrix.
Not the Matrix. It was not. I've watched that when I'm awake.
And about what you're talking about, Andrew and Vic. That I read an article on it, and I actually went online and I was looking it up. But the creator of Terminator and the Matrix, same person. She said that all of that was based off of the Terminator is a prequel to the Matrix.
What?
Yes. About how it was written, and basically, what's his name, Connor, and how Keanu Reeves' character is a direct descendant of what's his name, Connor in the Matrix, and all that. And she was actually talking about the lineage of the line, that was why they were fighting so hard to go back and kill him, was because that was the end goal for basically AI and the machines, because he was considered, the coming of Jesus back, and they had to terminate him so that they could continue on. But he was able to have a child, basically, which was Keanu Reeves' character. And there was a certain population of of actual humans were able to escape, the Matrix. The Matrix is all made up, we're just pretending to let you have a life, or you think you have a life, which is kind of where we're at now in society. And her end point to all that was, she goes, and where are we at now?
Wow. That is insane. Do you know who that person is that wrote it? You're talking about the person that wrote both of them.
Wachowski. Lana Wachowski.
Yes.
Wow.
I mean, she tells it a lot better than I did. I'm trying to summarize and remember, and I'm uneducated. I'm like you, Andrew. I don't have all the gift of big words like Aaron and Vic and Krista over there. But
yeah, those highly educated individuals over there.
Yeah. So we have time for one more good feel good story, or we?
You know what?
We are.
We're kind of past the timeline, but I'm sure everybody out there is loving our conversation.
Yeah.
But we should probably move on. Are you okay with that, Mike? Or
I'm good with it. Yeah, I'll save it.
Yeah.
I'll save it.
Okay.
That's fine.
All right.
I know you hate me. You
we're
hate me like Vic hates me. I know. That's fine. That's whatever.
I would never say that on the podcast. This week in military history with Krista.
Okay, I've had a hard week, so I've had a few drinks. So I'm going to attempt to do this. I'm going to do a rundown, and it had some really interesting things. And this is called myvetfriends.com. And so I'm going to attempt to read this as good as I can. And I'm going to start with some rundowns. And it had some very interesting rundowns. I'm going to attempt not to stumble my words. In 1492, Columbus sets sail from Palos, Spain for the Indies. In 1864, and this day in history is August 3rd. So
August 3rd, got it.
August 3rd. In 1864, there was the Battle of Mobile, Alabama, which was during the Civil War. In 1882, Congress passes the first law restricting immigration. So that was the first immigration law, which I thought was interesting because our country is going through a lot right now with immigration laws.
Oh, yeah.
In 1914, there was the first seaworthy ship to pass through the Panama Canal. There were several things that happened in the year of 1914 on August 3rd. In 1914, of course, the first seaworthy ship to pass through the Panama Canal. And Germany invaded Belgium and declared war on France in World War I. Great Britain declared war on Germany. And that was it. Those three things. In 1923, the vice president, Calvin Coolidge, became the 30th president. And we'll talk about him in just a minute. In 1925, the last troops left Nicaragua, and they had been there since 1912. So they've been there for almost, 13 years. In 1943, General Patton. Okay, this is interesting. My husband knew about this. In 1943, General Patton slapped a U.S. GI in the hospital, accusing him of cowardice. Did any of you guys know about that? I thought Mark might know about that. You knew about that, AJ?
It's in his movie, in the movie about him. Yeah, it's good. It's a good part of the movie.
This is why I wanted to do this quick rundown that I found on this website. It was interesting. In 1943, Nazi occupiers attacked a city of Orel, leaving it on fire. In 1944, Allied troops conquered Miatikiana, Burma. And then also in 1944, Lieutenant General Stilwell's troops occupied Miatikiana, Burma. This is interesting. And I know some of you guys have heard this name before. In 1948, FDR's advisor, Alger Hiss, was accused of being a communist. And I think there was a thing in Hollywood about all the people who were accused of being communists, But
that was a big thing back then.
Yeah, big thing back then. But FDR's advisor, Alger Hiss, was accused of being communist. In 1954, the first VTOL, vertical takeoff land, was flown. It was a Lockheed XFT. It was called the Convair. It was the first vertical landing takeoff.
What year was that?
1954, believe it or not. That was 54. The first vertical takeoff landing plane. Yeah. I think so. Okay. In 1958, the USS Nautilus began its first crossing of the Arctic Ocean under ice cap. So that was the first submarine under ice cap. In 1968, did they get to it? I don't know. I didn't research it. So I researched a couple things, not all of them.
All right.
In 1963,
Mark, he might have been on that boat.
He was on that boat.
I bet you Mark was on that boat.
In 1963, the Great Train Robbery was robbed. I'm not sure. It says 2.5 million OE, but 3.25 million robbed. So I don't know what that Great Train Robbery was. I did not look that up. So I think it looks like it was European. So the Great Train Robbery of 1963. In 1967, 45,000 U.S. soldiers were sent to Vietnam on this date. In 1968, okay, I like this one. This is a tit for tat. This is kind of a, thing back and forth. In 1968, France performs a nuclear test in Mururoa Island. In 1979, U.S. performs a nuclear test at Nevada test site. In 1981, France performs a nuclear test. In 1983, U.S. performs a nuclear test at the Nevada test site. And then
that's where Indiana Jones was. That's where Indiana Jones was.
They were doing their back and forth, their tit for tat. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then in 1990, this is my generation, my war. Radio Kuwait resigns air due to Iraqi invasion. And then in 1990, U.S. announces commitment of naval forces to the Gulf region. Now, there was one in here that caught my attention, and this is why I kind of did a follow-up on it. 1923, Vice President Calvin Coolidge becomes the 30th president on August 3rd. Why does Calvin Coolidge become a president on August 3rd? Does anyone know?
Ask Mark. He was there.
Ask Mark. He was there.
God. Poor Mark, man.
Tongue is very
I hope he doesn't watch this because you're dead, man.
Duty station.
I love you guys so much.
I don't know. I don't know the answer.
Calvin Coolidge became president on August 3rd or August 2nd of 1923 because President Warren Harding had passed away in office. Okay. He finished out his term and he became the 30th president of the United States. I'm going to attempt to read this under the influence of some great bourbon from Tennessee. Okay. He was a Republican. He became president, and he finished out Warren Harding's term, becoming the 30th president of the United States. He preceded Warren Harding. He was succeeded by Herbert Hoover. He was previously the 48th governor of Massachusetts. He was the vice president at that time. I'll read a little bit here. Calvin Coolidge's tenure as the 30th president of the United States began on August 2nd, 1923, when Coolidge became president upon Warren G. Harding's death and ended on March 4th, 1929. A Republican from Massachusetts, Coolidge had been vice president for 2 years, 151 days when he succeeded to the presidency upon the sudden death of Harding. Elected to a full 4-year term in 1924, Coolidge gained a reputation as a small government conservative. Coolidge was succeeded by the former Secretary of Commerce, Herbert Hoover, after the 1928 presidential election. Now, he ran in 1924 on a full election. His vice president at the time was a man named Dawes. Dawes, believe it or not, was a money man. I don't know his first name right off the bat. I had it written down earlier. Dawes was a winner of the Nobel Peace Prize, who was the co-author of the Reparations Act of World War I. This was a money man. Oh. This man had a lot of fingers in the pot. He was a really busy man. And he actually voted against a lot of acts that his vice president put forward. So I did a lot of reading on this man. Talk to him about him in just a minute. But Coolidge aptly handled the aftermath of several of Harding's administration scandals, and by the end of 1924, he had dismissed most officials implicated in the scandals. He presided over a strong economy and sought to shrink the regulatory role of the federal government. Along with the Secretary of Treasury, Andrew Mellon, Coolidge won the passage of 3 major tax cuts. This won't really mean anything to anybody in particular unless they go to look it up. But Using the powers delegated to him by the 1922 Fordney-McCumber Tariff, Coolidge kept tariff rates high in order to protect American manufacturing profits and high wages. He blocked passage of the McNerney-Hugen Farm Relief Bill, which would have involved the federal government in the persistent farm crisis by raising prices paid to farmers for 5 crops, which basically meant the farmers would produce a lot of crops. They would pack them away and then send them overseas for a higher price, and then make the American people pay a higher price for the food prices. He vetoed that act 2 times, and that was his vice president.
Who was the author of that act?
The author of the act was one of his vice presidents named, Dawes, and a guy named, I'll get to the name for you, Fordney and McCumber, I believe. Oh, no, McNary and Hugen. McNary and Hugen Farm Relief Bill.
Oh, I thought you said McNanny. And okay, sorry, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, McNary. Correct. It was McNary.
I'm just making sure, just verifying. That's all.
Okay, McNary Hugen Farm Relief Bill. But they were actually, Coolidge vetoed that bill 2 times because he tried to get the farmers to tell them that you're going to be passing this off to your farmers and the American people to pay higher prices on this tax bill. So, the second major tax cut he did was he blocked passage of the McNary-Hugen Farm Relief Bill, which would have involved the federal government to in persistent farm crisis by raising prices paid to farmers for 5 crops. And the third was the strong economy combined with restrained government spending produced consistent government surpluses, and total federal debt shrank by 1/4 during Coolidge's presidency. Coolidge also signed the Immigration Act of 1924, which greatly restricted immigration into the United States. Now, this was almost about 100 years later after the original first Immigration Act, which I read originally. In foreign policy, Coolidge continued to keep the United States out of membership or major engagement of the League of Nations. However, he did support disarmament agreements and sponsored the Kellogg-Briand Pact of 1928 to outlaw most wars. And we do know that wars do kind of build up and help the United States economy. Or
say it isn't so.
Say it isn't so. Coolidge was greatly admired during his time in office, and he surprised many by declining to seek another term. In 1928 or late 29, he declined a 3rd term, which his first term, was brought on by Harding's death. And then, of course, he had a second legitimate term, and then the 3rd term he declined. Public opinion on Coolidge soured shortly after he left office as the nation plunged into the Great Depression of 1929. Many linked the nation's economic collapse to Coolidge's policy decisions, which he did nothing to discourage in the wild speculation that was ongoing, and rendered so many vulnerable to the economic ruin. Though his reputation underwent a renaissance during the Ronald Reagan administration, modern assessments of Coolidge's presidency are divided. He is adulated among advocates of smaller government and laissez-faire. Supporters of an active central government generally view him as less favorably, while both sides praise his support of racial equality. The big thing is about Coolidge is he was very small government. And that is why when Reaganomics came around, he was very much praised for his very small government intervention. You did that earlier in this podcast, Victor, which we know I've indulged in very large amounts of whiskey on this podcast. So, AJ, in taking with your mom's stance, I have indulged in large amounts of whiskey on this podcast, and I'm not afraid to just bear it all to you all as I am.
It's all good.
I'm saying goodnight to Jesse tonight.
Right.
No, but I think that President Coolidge actually had, he had a lot of good people on his cabinet. He got rid of a lot of people on Harding's cabinet who were involved in some shady business deals. I think the gentleman who was his vice president, Dawes, was a big money man and had a lot, had maybe some underhanded deals and was really trying to make the American people pay for it. But I'm a little too intoxicated to talk about it tonight. So on that
That's
note,
okay. We understand. Yeah,
on that
that's
note, good
good.
night. And that's all I have to say about Calvin Coolidge tonight and today in world history, this week in world history.
Very well. Well, we're going to skip words of wisdom this time because we are running a little longer than we normally do. But that's okay. If you're still with us, appreciate you for joining us. For everybody that's here, thank you for coming on and sharing your thoughts and just having some good discussions. I appreciate it. As a reminder for anybody out there, if you're struggling, you need some help, anything like that, you can always reach out to the VA. They do have some great resources. You can dial 988, press option 1. You can also text 838-255, or you can go to veteranscrisisline.net, click on that chat icon. Any of those are going to be able to put you in contact with somebody that can help you out. One veteran life loss is one too many. I care about you. The crew cares about you. The entire veteran community cares about you. So please reach out for help. And if you're out there and you're doing really well, reach out to those that you served with at some point in time and just say hi and ask them how they're doing and just kind of keep tabs on each other. That's what we're here for, veterans supporting veterans. With that, guys, thanks for coming on. Much appreciated. To everybody out there, stay motivated, change your socks.